Have you heard before?
Yeah, right. Okay, so quick, I want you all to just go into your back office and under resources and training, under the consultant training tab, you're going to find what is called new consultant coaching or coaching thing list or whatever. Let me see what it's called real quick. It is called, it's under coaching, new consultants, and it's the coaching call PDF. And get that, this is what I use to basically start off with my new consultant checklists. Another thing, and I'll send you guys this, are what I use, and I kind of created this a while ago. It's called a new consultant, my own personal kind of a checklist. It has their name, you know, whether they have kids, employment, things like that, their why, fast starts. And like I said, I'll send you guys this so you can see it. But then it goes into when you check in with them and what kind of things did you give them to do? Did they do it? You can check it off so that way you know, did they complete it on your next call? So this is just something I use with my coaching calls so that way when you're following up and you're doing another coaching call, you can kind of backtrack and see what they did, what you told them to do or asked them to do. Because once you start building a team, you're not going to have to keep track of everybody. So that is something that's really helpful. But let's start right into a new coaching call with a new team member. I do use this as a guide. I don't go verbatim off of it. I don't like sounding pushy or, reading word for word of things. What I do is, and kind of say, I just highlight a few different things on this. And that way I see the highlighted item and I know what I want to talk about right then and there. So when you're first calling a new consultant, you want to really make it about them. So you want to talk to them. You want to get to know them. You want to know, do they have kids? Are they married? Do they work outside of the home? How old are their kids? Do they have activities? Whatever. Ask them about them. And then you can kind of go in and say, so why? And this is the first thing Jamboree related that I actually asked them. I asked them why. Why did they join? Did they join for the discount? Did they join because they wanted extra money? Did they join because they wanted the social aspect of it? To kind of get an idea of what and the reason behind why they joined. Obviously, we know we all joined sometimes for one reason, and then it ended up changing. So I start out with that. Like I said, it's all on here. You just have to break it down into little pieces. And then once I find out why they joined, I ask them, okay, so obviously we're doing a call and you're wanting to do it for X, Y, and Z reason. How much would you ideally like to make a month? Because it's hard for someone to grasp parties versus income, So you have to ask them, how much do they want to make? Now, if they give this outrageous amount, you're going to have to say, okay, that's great. That will be our long-term goal. But let's work to that. Now, our party average, and you kind of go through the party average, online parties are not so hot right now. They're hit or miss. I say that with online parties, it really comes down to hostess coaching. I just had a phone call with another gal, and I said gal, another girl, and she was just saying these parties that we're having, there were no sales and no one was interacting, and I was discussing stuff with her, and she doesn't hostess coach. So I was like, that explains it right there. You need to be hostess coaching. You need to get these girls excited. So the number one, I don't know how I got off track onto that. Because of the online parties versus the home parties, and explain to them that you want them to both do an in-home and an online launch party. Me personally, I do all of my new girls, not my downline, my level ones, online launch parties for them. And ever since I started doing that, I've seen people stick around. When I would leave people to do their own launch party and just check in on them and check in or sit in on the party, excuse me, it would go okay, and then I would have to kind of coach her a little bit more. But sometimes if that party flopped because she didn't know what she was doing or she was getting so stressed and overwhelmed, they leave. They're like, that was a flop, I'm done. And they don't want to stick around and try it anymore. So I really, it can be time consuming sometimes, but it is so worth it in the long run to do and hold their launch party for them and hostess coach them as the host. And I just did, who was it? Courtney's. And she goes, oh my gosh, you just made it seem so much easier. I just took everything and when I would hostess coach her, I would send her private messages and they would be it'll say in caps, hostess coaching, and then whatever it was that I would actually send to my host. And I said, this is what I want you to do. You save all this stuff. And sometimes I would even send them my script or whatever, but that's a hot mess right now. So I try not to send that to somebody. But I let them know, because she's like, oh my gosh, now I know what to do with my hostesses that are coming up. So I find it, just crucial to actually do it for them. So anyway, kind of after finding out how much they want to make, we start talking about parties, and I do say, the online and the home party. Now, when they hear home party, a lot of times they're going to freak out. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've never done a home party, I've never been to one, or whatever. That's fine. Don't even call it a party. I have been having everybody call them nail bars. And I know we talked about this before. And when someone hears a nail bar, it sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing. And it's not a home party. I mean, it is, but it's not. And they don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's a party, I have to go, I'm going to have to buy something, or whatever the case may be. And when you, especially as a new consultant, jumping in and trying to do a home party, I say, don't do a presentation. You don't have to stand up in front of your friends and family and do whatever. Sit down, sit around the table, get the samples out, and just start talking about how to apply the product, about the product. You can talk about it while they're applying, but get them to your house, get them physically there, or wherever you can hold it at. And then I always recommend that they do some kind of a drawing, hand out those slips of paper for something, so that way they can get contact information, and then do a drawing from that for some kind of a prize. But that way they're not overwhelmed and thinking, when they say, oh my gosh, I have to have a home party, and people freak out. They really do. So change the word, get the word party out of there, and nail down dates for their online and in-home launches. Those are the two crucial things that you want to make sure they get, and that your schedule is going to allow you to be able to do their online launch party for them. And if they're local, attend their in-home. You don't have to do it for them, but just be there to support them. So those are the first couple things that I do with them. I also ask them this feature, and oh my gosh, it is so amazing, because I had Courtney, one of my new girls that joined, forward them all to me, but the mobile coach is freaking amazing. Like she said, and you saw her video that I posted of her, how she's done other direct sales and stuff. She said, this is amazing. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me motivated. And I was just reading them. It's just like step by step, like reply yes to this. Did you do your launch party? No. Okay. Well, what are you going to plan on doing one? It is just amazing. So I think, and I'm pretty sure that when they're signing up as a consultant, they have to check a box to receive or be part of the mobile coach or whatever. If not, they can just simply text, I forget what it is, and if you need it, let me know. I can give it to you guys, because I had to ask Johnny. I was like, Johnny, help me. I have a new girl that's not getting texts. He's like, well, then have her opt in by texting blah, 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 for whatever. So I make sure that they're getting that mobile coach. And it's not overwhelming. They're not texting you like 5 times a day. They're like, she said, they're sporadic, like every once in a while. It's not like she's getting 500 texts a day. So she said that was really encouraging, knowing that they're not just push all the time. So get them set up for mobile coach. And then where else was I going to say? Oh yeah. So then I kind of, I do mobile coach before we actually decide about the parties and stuff, but depending on what they want for an income that, each month, is how we're going to decide her party goal and how many parties she's going to need booked. So you kind of have to break it down and explain, look, online party sales average this, home party sales average these, and you really want to try to stick with the home parties if you can. And then kind of, gear her to, okay, so now we know the X, Y, and Z amount of parties to hit your income that you want to have. And then, like I said, if they ended up saying they wanted like $5,000 a month, that's going to be their long-term goal, because we know that when you first join, you're not going to make $5,000 a month. And then break it down and explain the party averages to them and how many they need to have. And then work with them on blocking out calendar blocking. I find that I wish that I would have calendar blocked when I first started, but it took me like 2 years to start calendar blocking, and I was going crazy. So you want to get them into that mindset of calendar blocking, and because if not, they're going to get overwhelmed, and then it's going to be, if they really want to work their business, they're going to be working Jamberry 24/7. And that's not what we want, because when we do that, we know we get burnt out. And I still do it every once in a while. I got to say, oh my gosh, put your phone down. Oh my gosh, no, stop. Get away from your computer. Walk away. Because we'll get burnt out. I got burnt out plenty of times. So you really need to have them work on calendar blocking out times for when they actually want to work their business. And tell them, start out with power hours. And in that power hour, we can work on X, Y, and Z, whether it's making hostess packets or following up or hostess coaching, whatever. But then you can work on that a little bit later. But this is probably one of her homework assignments I would give her, is to block out her calendar and find out when she wants to work. But you want to do that after she's done putting in all her family and other stuff outside of Jamberry, because we don't want Jamberry running our lives. We want to be able to fill that in where we want it. So definitely have her work on the calendar blocking. And she doesn't have to put what she wants in there, but just have her figure out the time slots on when she wants to work it, because that's the first biggest step that they're going to have to jump into. And then while she's doing that, the list of 100 or your Franks and Beans, that is crucial, because that's where they're going to start working from to get their bookings and leads from. Who was it? Someone recently in the past few months said, oh my gosh, I did my list of 50, and she was so excited. And she was crossing people off. She was filling people in. She goes, this is so awesome, because I just keep wanting to add more names, and I don't care if I get a no. And I keep telling them, it's not no's are good. And I always tell everybody, no means next opportunity. That's what I always say no stands for. And I said, you can't get discouraged by the no's. And so then I told her about the Franks and Beans list. She goes, oh my gosh, that's so much easier. Now it gives me people to who I can actually think of, rather than just trying to think of names. So you might want to introduce the Franks and Beans list to them first. So that way it's a little bit easier for them to say, okay, oh yeah, neighbors. I have this neighbor, and this neighbor, to work on it that way. And then, so those are the two homework items that I usually give. The first one is writing their list and doing their calendar blocking. And obviously hopefully we will have the launch parties scheduled, talking about it on that call because I'm going to have my calendar out when I'm available to help her, if it's going to be local and she's local to me in home, or if it's going to be online, so we can compare calendars on when I'm available to do it for her. And what was the other thing on here? The other thing is the ProPay. Make sure they set up ProPay, because some people forget to do that, and then they're not getting paid. And they're like, where am I supposed to get my pay at? Because I haven't gotten anything. And I'm like, we haven't gotten anything yet because you haven't set anything up. So, make sure you do that, whatever. But you want to keep the first call just, short and simple, just those couple of key things. Like I said, everything is in for that first call is right here in that Coaching New Consultants PDF that's in our dashboard. And what I will do is, because I love these, the New Consultant coaching, I call it my coaching call sheets, but it's just that way I have places to jot down stuff, if they have recruit leads, upcoming parties, and that way on the next call I can follow up and say, oh, so-and-so, have you talked to them? And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to remember these names of people that people tell me that they have leads for, and then their parties. Another thing that I just saw, and I'm hoping you guys saw it too, is the team calendar. I am going to try to keep that up to date from here on out. I'm going to put all of the home office trainings on that as well, and that way everybody can put their parties on there. So, for instance, I'm trying to plan another training sometime soon, but I want to kind of gear it towards around the people where there's not as many parties, because obviously if they're filling out that calendar and they're working their business, they're going to be going to the trainings. So I don't want to do these trainings the nights of where all these people are having parties. I would like for them to be on the trainings. And obviously if they're not filling out the calendar and they're not putting any parties in, then they probably aren't working their business, so we don't have to worry about them whether or not they're on the call or not. If that makes sense. So let's really utilize that. And I know that it's difficult to pick up the phone and actually call somebody, and you know, especially a new person, even if we don't know them. The first time, I don't remember who it was. They're not even with Jamboree anymore, unfortunately. But I called them, and I was just, hi. I didn't even have anything to go off of, so I didn't know what to say, what I was trying to tell them, what I wanted them to do. So I ended up just welcoming them to the team, which we should be doing regardless. And then you can set up your first coaching call from that, or utilize the Facebook Messenger voice chat thing, so that way they can hear you. But when you're doing that first call, definitely, even if you're doing something on Zoom, if that they don't feel comfortable, you don't feel comfortable on the phone. Like, I feel more comfortable over Zoom than I do on the phone. I don't know why. It's like, if they can see me, you can even turn the video off if you don't even want to have video on. But it's just getting that initial call, because once you have that initial coaching call and you give those little tidbits of stuff for them to do, and you praise them for, thank you so much for, at least doing this call, and know that they're there and motivated to keep going, then you can really, they're going to be willing to get on another call. And like this thing, it breaks it down to call 2, call 3, call 4. So it's amazing. So tonight, go in there, this is what I use all the time. So I print it out and I have it sitting on my desk. And I use this one all the time. So when I do a brand new, new consultant coaching call, I'll whip this out. And then, of course, I'll whip out my sheet for each individual person to do it that way. But like I said, it's really low-key. I'm not, like I said, okay, so now that you join this, and that, because you don't want to scare them off. You don't want to be that, like, scary sponsor who's like, oh, my gosh, she wants me to do what? And she wants me to do 6 parties in 30 days. Blah. But when you're talking to them and they're saying, and they're like, that's why you want to know what they want to make before we even talk parties, because then you can break it down and say, okay, you want to make this much money. This is going to be this many parties, and those are going to be successful parties, but you want to at least book 1 or 2 extra in case you have a cancellation, or if they're doing online parties, duds. Okay. I always overbook myself. Like, I already had like 2 duds this month, and we are on the 10th. But I booked the crap out of my calendar because I know what online parties are like. So that's just that. Like I said, in the beginning of the call, just be real personable with them, get to know them, ask them about them, and have them share stuff with you before you kind of just dip into, like I said, I start out with the why, because that still talks about them. And then you can kind of use that why as a transition from talking about them to talking about the business. Let's see. Yes, that's all I have really for the first call. Like I said, it's just keeping it really simple, but getting them off to a good start and not losing them right away. Do you guys have any questions that you want to ask?
I'm kind of like, I had that girl do the sneak peek.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at the point where I said, I told her, like, her sneak peek was ended and everything, and that I'm here, like, any questions? Do you have any questions about anything right now? And she said, no, I'm still looking into it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here, and I just kind of don't know where to go from there. Like, I don't want to seem like super pushy.
Mm-hmm. Ask her why she's hesitating.
I would do that, but I would also say, what's holding you back? And I just want to also give you a heads up that, the later in the month that you join and talk about that fast start, because she probably saw the fast start during her sneak peek, and kind of just bring that up, because that way, the longer she waits to join the month, which honestly, the fast starts now are no joke. Like, it's super, like, our new girls should be hitting fast starts left and right if it's just the
Wait.
sales, because what was holding people back before was recruiting, and they took that out. So it should be really, really, really easy for, people to hit that first fast start. 1 second, let me just stop the recording.